recovery and disposal. Talking about the European countries, they have set up a waste hierarchy that is involving these 5 steps. All right, out of which disposal is the least preferred option in waste management, and prevention of waste generation is the best option. So if you look at the pyramid, the one present at the bottom is the least preferred option, and the one present at the top is the most preferred method or the best option. That is, first of all, they want to prevent the generation of waste. They do not want waste to be generated. They prevent the waste from being generated as much as possible. Then minimization, that is, they minimize the waste. That is, even if they are generating the waste, they are going to generate the least possible waste. All right, whatever can be they are able to reduce, or the whatever they could minimize, they are going to minimize the waste. And then reuse, they are going to reuse the items that they can and not throw them away. Then they are going to recycle whatever products they can recycle, they are going to recycle those products. Then energy recovery, even if they can recover something from that, that is, again, this will be involving a industrial process. This cannot be done at home. Energy recovery is the extraction of the resources. That is, whatever, suppose there is something, batteries and all that, they need to be disposed of. They cannot be recycled, they cannot be reused, it's just rendered useless. So they are going to extract the useful materials, whatever, open up the battery and take out whatever can be of use to them, that is being extracted, and then the rest of it is thrown away or disposed. And then the last comes disposal, that is when they have no other option and the waste generated is totally useless and it cannot be recycled, it cannot be recovered, nothing can be done of it, then it is disposed away. So this disposal method is the least preferred method, while they want to prevent the waste generation as much as possible. All right, so you can remember that this is a setup that is present in European countries, and they have this hierarchy where your most preferred method is prevention and the least preferred method is disposal. All right. Then issues of waste disposal. Handling of solid waste is a problem because most disposal methods cause harm to the environment. Both open dumps and landfills may contain toxins that seep into the soil. Uncontrolled burning of accumulated waste creates smoke and air pollutants that release toxic substances into the atmosphere. So they're saying that handling is not is a problem. Handling, how to handle, how to dispose, because the methods that we have of disposing the waste, those methods are mostly harmful for the environment. Like what methods did we discuss? We discussed open dumping, it had harmful effects. We discussed sanitary landfill, but it was not totally efficient and waste remained for many years in the earth. All right, then we discussed incineration, that again had its own harmful effects. Fine. So all these methods, they are obviously harming the environment in some way or the other. Both open dumps and landfills, what are they causing? They're causing the toxins to be absorbed into the ground, and then they reach the water bodies, the underground water, and they cause water pollution. And obviously when we are burning the waste in open dump or in incineration, what is happening? That the smoke is being let out into the atmosphere and air is being polluted. Waste remains in the environment. We move waste from one place to another, but never get rid of it completely. We are not able to get rid of the waste completely up till now. What happens? It just keeps getting transferred from one place to another. We are throwing it outside our homes, the municipality is collecting and taking it and throwing at some other dumping area. Then it is collected from there and it is thrown in the landfills on the outskirts of the city. And even if when those areas get filled up, It is sometimes taken and thrown in the water bodies or in the oceans and seas. So obviously the waste is just getting transferred from one place to another. It is never that we get totally rid of it. Nuclear radiations are very harmful as they cause genetic and somatic variation. We've already talked about it. They are more dangerous because they remain into the environment for thousands of years and do not decompose easily. Safe disposal of nuclear waste is essential because it is radioactive and critically dangerous. It is very, very dangerous. That is, it leads to deformities in humans and animals. All right. So they should be rendered harmless and then stored in deep layers of the earth where they can gradually decay and take place. So what should be done? First of all, their activity, their being active should be made harmless for the environment, and then they should be buried deep into the earth. Unused uranium and plutonium can be recovered and recycled as fresh fuel, which is known as reprocessing of spent fuel. So when energy is being extracted from these materials, these elements, what should be done? When the waste is generated, whatever uranium and plutonium can be recovered, it should be recovered and reused. So you can underline that. What is reprocessing of spent fuel? You can say that unused uranium and plutonium that can be recovered and recycled as fresh fuel is known as reprocessing of spent fuel. All right. Then we have our Basel Convention. Basel Convention was a treaty signed by various countries. Many countries, they officials from various countries, they got together, they sat down, and they discussed about what is waste, what are the various methods that should be applied to reduce or get, so that we get rid of the waste that has been generated, or how to control further the further generation of waste. So they discussed this and they signed a treaty. So that is referred to as Basel Convention. The Basel Convention on Control of Transboundary Movements of Hazardous Waste and their disposal was adopted on 22 March 1989 by the Conference of Plenipotentiaries in Basel, Switzerland, in response to a public outcry following the discovery in 1980s in Africa and other parts of developing world of deposits of toxic waste imported from abroad. All right. So there were lots of toxic waste had been deposited in Africa and in some other countries. And in 1980s, it was just what happened that the developed countries, when they generated a lot of waste and they had no place to dump that waste, they took that waste and dumped all the toxic waste in the underdeveloped countries. All right. So they did the same thing in Africa. All right, in 1980s, because Africa was a weaker continent, weaker country at that time. So what they did, that they dumped their toxic waste in Africa. And why did they do that? To protect their own citizens. All right, they felt that this is going to means the toxic waste that is being toxic chemicals that are being released, our people are going to be saved, and they did not care about the people where they are dumping the waste. So they brought all their toxic waste and they dumped in Africa. So when the people discovered about it, they started an agitation. Outcry, a public outcry is given now. It means the public protested. There was agitation against it, and in Swiss, so various countries, they sat together, talked about it, that what should be done about this waste, and they signed a treaty in Switzerland on 22 March 1989. How many countries were involved in this? 179 countries, including India, are the signatories of this convention. It was negotiated under the auspices of UNEP. All right, United Nations Environment Program. United Nations has got various organizations. You must be knowing that. So the organization concerned with the environment. It guided this convention, and 179 countries sat down and they decided about what should be done of the waste that is being accumulated, that is getting accumulated in the environment. And India was also one of these countries. The main objective of Basel Convention is to protect human health and the environment against the adverse effects of hazardous waste. It also defined the different categories of wastes as hazardous waste based on their origin or composition and their characteristics, as well as two types of waste defined as other waste, household waste, and the incinerator ash. So the main objective was of this convention, you can underline it, that what was the main objective of the Basel Convention? It is to protect human health and the environment against the adverse effect of hazardous waste, the harmful effects that the hazardous waste is imposing on the human and the environment. They need to protect, talk about that. So it classified the wastes into various categories according to the composition or origin. Then what were the provisions laid by it? The provision of convention center around the following principal aims. What were the aims of this convention? That is reduction of hazardous waste generation, promotion of environmentally sound management of hazardous waste wherever the place of disposal, that is they need to reduce the hazardous waste. The production of hazardous waste should be reduced, and there should be a proper management of the hazardous waste, no matter where you are disposing it, but you have to treat it first, and then only properly you can manage and dispose the waste. The restriction of transboundary movements of hazardous waste, except where it is perceived to be in accordance with the principle of environmentally sound management. So, when you are, moving the hazardous waste from one place to another, and you are dumping it at certain place, so it should all be done keeping in mind that it should not harm the environment, neither of the place where it is generated nor of the place where it is being dumped. A regulatory system applying to cases where transboundary movements are permissible. So crossing, transferring waste from one place to another should also be done according to a system. There should be a regulatory system that allows you to dump waste in certain places and not to dump in certain places. It should not be your own right that no matter where you want, you're just dumping the waste. It should not be the case. Instead, there should be a system that regulates things and that decides that where the waste should be dumped. All right. So this brings us to the end.